what sugar replacements, you mentioned stevia, of course, are there other safe sugar replacements that doesn't screw up your blood sugar or make you fat and stuff like that?
Sure. Now, I've used stevia for probably, oh my gosh, maybe it's 30 years now. I don't know. I found out about it. I was fortunate, to have learned about it a long time ago. And I had a bad reaction to aspartame. So it was very motivating to make sure I changed. And the coconut palm nectar is one of the best. And I have to, it's kind of a funny story. I thought, wow, this is so cool. Here I am seeing all these advertisements in the 1980s or 1990s about you can have carbohydrate-free chocolates. And they had all of these sugar alcohols included. And that would be like mannitol, all the things that end in OL. Well, one of the concerns, and I wasn't aware of this until it happened to me, you can feel as if you have fireworks exploding in your gut because that sugar alcohol ferments and causes all this pressure internally. So people have to really be careful.
Yeah, that doesn't sound good. So you mean you can get diarrhea if you eat too much of it?
But horrible cramping because of the pressure that it causes. So what is safe? Stevia and the coconut nectar. Some people don't have that problem, and I take issue with the many companies that claim they have pure stevia, except they neglect to inform people when they make the claim to read the label. I read the label. I never take them at what they say. And they have erythritol, another one that ends in OL. It's a sugar alcohol. And I have a patient, someone who's very challenging, very stubborn. When they're a friend and a patient, it's very hard to deal with. You want to bang your head against the wall. And sometimes it's, which mode are we in? Are we in the doctor mode? Are we in the friend mode? So you don't want to be overbearing and say anything. And I looked at the label for the stevia he was using, and I didn't say a word. And I just put it down. And he said, well, is there something wrong with it? I said, well, what's your experience? I mean, I can comment on some of the things. And he said, well, sometimes, I might not feel completely right. I said, well, what you have here, it's not just stevia. It has erythritol, and that's a sugar alcohol, which goes with the explanation I gave you before. And he said, oh, that explains the cramps that I would get and the upset stomach.
So all the things ending on OL is actually, because they're pushing many sugar-free products, and I'm not talking about light products and all that bullshit, but supposedly healthy. Stevia was forbidden, by the way, in Norway for long. But you know how we managed to make it available?
How?
Public demand. People became aware of it because, like I said, people are getting aware when it comes to food. And they were outraged that we couldn't get stevia here. Why is it forbidden? So now it's coming like a huge wave. Actually, our, Gro Harlem Brundtland, she's a former prime minister of Norway who's been the head of WHO for a long time. And she has this agenda of trying to make sugar, actually ban sugar.
Wow, good for her.
Yes, well, good for, it's a UN, right? So good for the world if that happens. But so stevia is popular, but people also use all the other things. I don't know if these terms applies in English, but it's called, for instance, sucrine and fructose.
Yeah, you're thinking of sucralose. Sucralose is another chemical that is toxic, that has side effects. Oh. You had aspartame, which now they've changed the name, and it's included in so many things, even pharmaceutical drugs.
Yeah, we know that's bad.
Yeah, aspartame. Yeah. I'm trying to think of some of the others. Well, saccharin was an old one. I think they wanted to reintroduce it, even though they found that there were problems with it. So,
what about this xylitol or something like that?
Xylitol? Yeah. Xylitol is another sugar alcohol that's been found to have wonderful oral health benefits for repopulating the good bacteria in the mouth. And it is, I think, a little bit less of an irritant to the gut than some of the other sugar alcohols. But here in the States, you'll find it in toothpaste, mouthwashes, chewing gums, and it has benefits like that. And I have bottles of it, but I put them high up and out of the way because those sugar alcohols that are in many mints and chewing gums, let's say your dog or cat, I'm not sure, but I think it's the same for cats, definitely for dogs. If they get into it, the sugar alcohols have a systemic effect on them that's quite different from us, and their blood pressure drops so dramatically that they can die.
Oh,
and you've got to be really careful keeping that away from your pets.
Yeah.
So that's if you get candy made with it or cakes or whatever, keep it away.
But is the thumb rule here then that if it ends on OL or if it's a sugar alcohol, you should be a little careful?
Yeah, the sugar alcohols. I'm sure there are other things that end in OL as well that have trade names. But, mannitol, xylitol, erythritol, there's a whole list of them. So I would say proceed with caution, and especially if somebody has irritable bowel syndrome. Oh my gosh, don't let them take those products.
So the optimal thing in your view then is stevia and coconut, was it oil? What was
nectar.
it?
Nectar. Everything coconut. Coconut palm sugar, coconut nectar, coconut oil, cocoa butter.
And you can even use it on your skin and as a deodorant. And I've started flushing the mouth with coconut oil now for 20 minutes every evening. And I did it as an experiment when I dropped fluoride products for my dental care. Because I was a little paranoid, I'm a little brainwashed, that, if I drop fluoride now, my teeth will go bad because I don't have very healthy teeth. So I started with this and Did
you ever wonder why you don't have very healthy teeth? Excuse me for interrupting you.
No.
It could be from all the fluoride.
Yeah. It may be, because my parents gave me fluoride tablets, pills, from I was a baby almost. So every day I chewed on them. Like a good little concentration camp victim. So yeah, that may be it. But my teeth also get so, I always wanted white, beautiful teeth. So now they're starting to really whiten due to the coconut oil flushing. So it's not only that it kills the bacteria in the mouth, it even whitens teeth.
And thank you. I have to go back to that because I've done it periodically, that oil pulling, and it is supposed to be one of the most amazing things for oral health. So thank you for the reminder.
Yeah, I can subscribe. It's not just a myth. It actually works at least that's my anecdotal evidence. But what about honey? That's a natural product. I mean, how could that be bad?
Well, it depends on who's consuming the honey. Even though something is a natural product, and oh my gosh, you left the door wide open, Al, because here in the States, we have every kind of garbage, food labeled all natural.
Yeah, I know.
And it's meaningless. But with honey is great on the skin. You have Manuka honey from Australia and from some other areas that have potent healing medicinal benefits. And you can have raw honey. You've got to be careful with infants because there are certain spores that are found to be in honey, and they can give kids infants, a very dangerous exposure that can be life-threatening. So they recommend waiting until after a baby is a year old before you add honey. But if somebody is part of you'll love this acronym, Standard American Diet. They call it the SAD diet. How right on. Can you imagine the SAD diet? And the SAD diet is consuming your pasta, your bread, your potatoes, your muffins, your pies, your cakes, your sugar-laden ice cream, all of these things that overwhelm the system, your overcooked meats that form a chemical reaction at high temperatures. So much food that is eaten here in the States that has become harmful aside from the fact that it doesn't have the basic mineral requirements to support nutrition, that there are GMOs, that there are antibiotic residues and growth hormones and all these other things, how are people going to stay healthy with what they eat? So you really have to work hard to find good sources to have good quality food. And that's a job for me all the time.
Okay. But I'm not so clear on what your verdict on honey was.
Oh, on honey, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked. I think if you're not somebody that has symptoms of a leaky gut that's been taking antibiotics for a while, and what happens with that if you're not taking your probiotics or eating that good yogurt as you were describing, you have a irritation of the intestinal tract where some of these irritants can pass into the pelvic cavity and create an inflammation process. So more sugars can tend to feed that, and people, that's why we have such a high rate of diabetes here, because it's all out of balance, because people
here too.
Yeah, they were told not to eat the necessary fats, coconut oil, olive oil, eggs. I mean, these things are necessities for your body to function. So I think honey is great, but if a person has to watch their sugar intake, it's going to be detrimental to their health.
But for a person with an average okay health, then it could be a beneficial effect.
Oh yeah, it has good properties. You can find, I think there was a book, Confessions of a Vermont Doctor, that came out years ago, and I found a used copy about the importance of apple cider vinegar, and you mix that with honey. If you have an upset stomach, if you're getting a cold, whatever it is, that it balances your system, and the importance of the benefits of honeys from different regions. If you have allergies, you want to get the wax from, the comb from the beehive in your area, because they have used the pollen to make the honey from the local plants, and that will help you deal with your allergies, that exposure. It's kind of a homeopathic treatment with this small dose of the honey from specific areas. So yes, I say, that you can use honey. And for those that want another option, maple syrup.
Really? Syrup? Wow.
Oh, maple syrup from the maple trees. That is the grade B or grade C. You want the darker syrup because it's got all the vitamins and minerals, because only people in the States here could ever believe that they got to take everything out to make it look good. And that means it'll be good for you with all that good stuff taken out. So it's, another conundrum there. But, and of course, Manuka. Manuka honeys, and they have different medicinal gradings for what you're treating. And that's something everybody can Google and read about. And if they are so inclined, incorporate into their diets or use it as wound healing. Even regular honey can be put on a wound to help speed up the healing.
Yeah, I read a research report about that. I think it seems that honey has antibiotic qualities in it naturally.